Hello, it's John Lord here. I want to do from Betula Garden Centre, and on the 2nd of April, so you can't be fooled. You can only be fooled on the 1st. And I want to talk about a bit of pruning and a few other bits, whatever comes to mind. Here we have, I have a thing about bare root. I don't even like it being out in the sunlight even for a second. I always keep it wrapped up. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be in the elements. It's either meant to be under the ground or in a pot. But this is Birch Betula Pendula, and it's probably called a whip. You can understand why they're called whips. About 2 years old, and about 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, I think 2, we planted these here, this size, and look at what they've become. Of course, this is perfect ground for a birch, because birch would be known as a pioneering species, and they would never go into deep woodland because they wouldn't be able to tolerate the shade. They tend to go at the edges, or where there's, you'd say, a landslide and there's a lot of new ground appears. The birch are very quick. They're colonising species. They get in first, and then the oak and the lime and stuff like that and the ash come in and eventually take over. But they're the starter offers. So what are we going to do with them? We're going to do two things. We need this. We're going to display a bit of statuary here for selling, and we have all the lower branches still on. Now that's called, when the lower branches are on, it's called a feather, because you like to feather. And when you take them off, you get a standard. Now, why do we see so many trees around as standards? What happens in nature? Well, in nature, if humans are not around and there's no other competition, they will generally keep their branches right to the ground. But if they're in a woodland, if humans are around, humans strip them up. Or if they're in a woodland, the ones further in just tend to have the growth. They tend to lose the bottom branches because there's no point, because the light's not getting down, and you just put all the energy and effort into the top. But you could have a standard birch. You could have that as a standard birch for you, or a feathered birch for years. But we're going to remove some of the branches. And the funny thing about it is, feathered birch, because there's more leaves on it for production of sugar and stuff to make the tree grow faster. It actually grows quicker than when it's standard. Another thing about birch, you're not meant to prune them at this time of the year because they can weep. That's how you can get syrup. You can get birch syrup by doing that. But we're going to do it. And just do a few. We'll have a look. Important if you're pruning, you see that there's a sharp side. That's the cutting side, and that's sort of the anvil side. And you always have the cutting side on top, because particularly in a bigger branch, the gravity opens the cut, so you want to go in the direction of gravity. You never go this way because you have to pull against gravity. You always go this way, and you generally leave a little, don't go right. They say you should leave a little tiny stub like that. So we do one. You don't want to go too far. I think that's about enough. Now that's job number one. Now job number two. If we look along them, we'll see some of them are perfect leaders, straight up. And they're starting to go white at the bottom. Some of them are forked. If you look at this one here, you've got a fork. We don't want the fork. We want to have a single trunk, like that big walnut behind. See that big one there? Looks much better. And it's straight up the whole way because the branches radiate around it. Just looks nicer, more symmetrical. So what do? We remove this. We take off one of them. Which one do we take? But here's the secret. You don't take it off fully. You don't have to. You only have to take it on a little bit. And then the energy always goes to the stronger one. It's sort of the opposite of humans. We give more to the weaker child. But here, the stronger one gets it, because that wants to get above the other ones in the woodland. So what we take about Take it about down to here. Maybe just... What happens now is that the energy goes into this one here. And that will just become eventually a side branch. When we do it again, that one's okay, that one's okay, that one's okay, that one's okay. Here's another fork. And funny, the one that's off center seems to be the stronger one. We'll do the same again. I remember when I was in Germany years ago, what they used to do, they would cut the one they didn't want, they would cut it to about here, about that much, and they would tie the other one on to straighten it up like that. It's a little nursery person's trick. That one's okay. That one is. That's it. That's all you need to do. That's okay. Maybe this one here. Very little. This one here. I think we have it. And just to look here, you can see how good a gardener I was. That when these were tied in with stakes to stop them from rocking. You see how I never allowed stake or the tie to chaff on the tree. Of course I did. Look at, there's a load of them like that here. Look at that one there, the poor tree. You should never allow that to happen. Oh, look at that one. That's really bad. That gets you into trouble with the prevention for cruelty to trees. But what, I got it in time. It'll just grow over it. So that's Birch done, and now we're going to have a quick look at roses. This year, as I said before, we had no winter. The roses stayed evergreen. What are we going to do? One problem about that is overwintering diseases. Normally they would fall off, so it could be a bit of an issue. But that rose gets too big, so it has to be brought down. Now, how do you prune roses? With difficulty. When I was in Germany, this nurseryman, it was real sort of normal German, and he called anything that was like anything that had thorns, he called them stickelschwein. Prickly pigs, I suppose, in English. Them stickelschwein, you know, when you be pulling berbers or roses and getting themselves all cut. And that's why people, professional gardeners, people who work a lot with plants, hate prickly plants. They hate them because they're the ones who have to get in and always get cut. But as we all know, you can't have the rose without the thorn. So, where are we? Start of April. When the roses come into flower, about June. My love is like a red rose, newly sprung in June. So June. So all of April is 4 weeks, all of May, that's 8 weeks, so about 12 weeks. So you could certainly pull back. It's might flower earlier this year because it never went back, but it's coming onto the path. So we're going to go mad. We've decided to go mad. We're past the point of no return. We're past the point of rescue. And when you're doing this yourself, get proper gloves, not these plasticky ones. Get the good heavy thorn-proof ones. I lost mine. And once again, great thing about the long handle loppers is that you're away from the action. When I was a starting off gardener, this old gardener, when I was in the botanic gardens, he was really, really good. He was working in one of the glass houses, and he said to me, he was cutting back massive big house plants, and he said to me, John, when you cut plants back, two things will happen. Either they'll grow or they'll die. If they die, you replace them with another. If they grow, they grow. And I've always said that. I've always had that view. He said most of the time they will grow. Certain plants, it's interesting that certain plants you cannot cut hard into old wood, and that would include most conifers. That's why dwarf conifers were very popular in this when I started, the 60s and the 70s, but it was the wrong term. The term should have been slow growing conifers, because they grow them that much a year, but you multiply that by 30 and you can't cut them back, so they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's what put people off dwarf conifers. And we can see in here that nature never sleeps, because we get all this out first, and then we look. You know, let's see what we're going to do with this. A bit of recycling. I love recycling. A bit of recycling. What the eyes can't see, the heart can't yearn for. That's when I built this garden, I put a sort of a no man's buffer, no man's land, about 30 foot wide, and we were able to put our windbreak, and we just have brambles, and we let it grow wide, semi-wide. We just once a year we go along and cut the brambles down, and we just leave it alone. It's perfect, works really well. And we have the anti-rabbit fence here. That's the anti-rabbit fence. But the rabbits can be in there to the heart's content. You see, if I had brought the gardens right to the edge, what do you do with all the waste of all this trouble? Makes it easy. And how is the yew hedge coming on? Coming on nicely. And this is nature never sleeping. We have blackberry bushes, the brambles coming through. You just cut them back. We have ash coming through. We have hawthorn coming through. Ivy coming through. More ash. And we have sycamore. Acer pseudoplatanus sycamore is cut back. That'll have to be taken out. That's coming through. Yeah, that's really it. It's kind of severe. And watch the ivy. I keep saying that to people. How you deal with ivy, it's just a little and off, and anytime you see it, just remove it. Just pull it out. It is very, it's relentless, but it's slow. So you just can't leave it. I don't mind it coming up the hedge, but if it comes out at all. But twice a year. What's that? Maybe a little bit of work on the yew hedge. Yew hedge is coming lovely. What the yew loves is those trees, because the trees suck the water out, and the yew loves dry conditions. There we go, that's it. Well, there's more for pruning around the side. Will we go around the side and have a look, or is that enough of a video?
That's enough.
That's enough? Mm-hmm. Okay, cut.